Welcome back to the Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte, where we will hear stories of incredible people thriving against all odds. And my hope is that we can all see how life is always happening for us, even when we are the less than 1% chance. Hey, welcome back to Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte. I am so excited for you guys to listen to this guest today. So Jamie grew up super poor, not educated, lack of financial literacy, became a special forces soldier and served for 24 years, transitioned into the entrepreneurial space and became a real estate investor. He also has a podcast, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I am so excited for you to meet Jamie Tilke. Hello,
Hey.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me come on. I saw your podcast and I was like, I really want to be on there. So thank you for letting me come on and talk to your listeners.
I'm so excited. We just chatted a little bit off camera and it was like instant, oh my gosh, I love this connection. This is great. So I think that you're in for such a good episode today.
Yeah, twinsies. I don't know if you're familiar with, what was that 70s cartoon? Oh, it was the twins with the purple. They wore purple because we just talked about purple too.
Yes. So yeah, we both love purple. That was something, and his brand colors have purple in it. So I'm like, all about it.
Yeah.
As you can tell, like everything is purple. So I am really, really excited just to hear a little bit of background of your story. How did you come to land in the entrepreneurial space, and how did this podcast come about?
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah. So I grew up in upstate New York, not too far away from Cooperstown, which is a baseball Hall of Fame. And as you already mentioned, grew up really poor. Sometimes we didn't have a house, lived in a car, lived in a tent. That was quite the experience. But that definitely helped shape me into who I became. I think the biggest motivating factor there was my circumstances caused me to want to do what it took to not have that happen for my future. So graduated high school, didn't go to college because I thought I was going to be a rock star. Clearly that did not work out, but I did try. And then after that, I ended up becoming an over-the-road truck driver, which is completely opposite of anything to do with music. And after about 2 years of doing that, I literally was just bored. And then I was watching Rambo. And after the end of Rambo, I'm like, I'm going to join the army. And true story. In fact, my best friend texted me. He goes, dude, text my wife and tell her why you joined the army because she doesn't believe me. And so I sent her this 1 minute and 44-second video clip from the scene of Rambo where Colonel Troutman walks into the tent because they're trying to figure out, I forget the other guy's name. I know his real name is Gene. And he's, whatever would possess God in heaven to create a man like Rambo. And then the guy walks in, he goes, God didn't create Rambo, I did. And anyway, there's this little monologue after that where you don't want to seem to accept the fact that you're dealing with an expert in guerrilla warfare. I saw that and the testosterone started flowing. I was like, damn, I got to do that.
That's something I got to do.
Yeah. So I'll speed up the timeline because I'm going off on all these various digressions. Yeah. So I did that. I served for 24 years. I went in the Ranger Battalion, which is an elite special operations light infantry unit. And then from there, volunteered to learn Chinese. After I did that, I went into Special Forces Green Beret and served the remainder of my career there, predominantly in and around Asia. So that was super exciting. And then as far as your question is, how did I get into entrepreneurship? It's funny because I recall even at a very young age, because of my circumstances, I would buy gum or get gum from the supermarket and then I would upcharge it. And I would do it in school because the kids didn't have access to it or their parents didn't allow them, whatever the reason was. I'm buying it for 25 cents a pack and I'm selling each piece for 25 cents, right? So I'm
do that with blow pops.
Yeah. So I'm getting like a 400% return on my investment. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. Matter of fact, I brought home $40 one day and my mom literally goes, where did you get that money from? I'm like, Mom, I sold bubblegum. She's like, no, you did. I was like, yes, I did. So clearly I had the bug back then, but I didn't really understand it.
That's hilarious. I didn't even think of that until you said that. I used to do that with blow pops. We would buy the big packet Sam's.
Yeah.
And I would sell them until I got caught and was told that I couldn't do that at school.
Yeah. But That's because I think, again, your mind's flowing, but we're just not thinking about it in that particular way and maybe didn't have mentorship. But yeah, I had towards the end of my military career, I was working overseas and I was just doing some more work where we work with other government agencies. And I had this moment where was riding on a wave of having done some successful stuff for the organization. And I just had this epiphany one day where I told my wife, I was like, why am I not building a multi-million-dollar empire? And I was like, I think it's because I underestimated my circumstances. I feel like because I'm sure you're aware of the phrase that people say, imposter syndrome. And so I feel like maybe I wasn't adequate enough. I wasn't educated enough. I wasn't in the right circles, this and that. But I just had that moment where I was sitting there and I was like, no, I am. And so I told my wife, I said, we're going to get out of the army and we're going to become real estate investors. And at that time, we were 6 figures in debt. And I'm very transparent about the numbers, even though it's embarrassing, because I want other people to understand it's unlikely that your circumstances are terribly worse than that. We were $127,000 in credit card debt. That did not include my house nor my car. We had $5 in the bank. And I told my wife, we're going to get out. And she was just like, this dude is batshit crazy, man. But she knows that I have a great work ethic and I'm relentless in my pursuit. And story is super deep in and of itself. So I'm just going to give you the Cliff Note version, which was asked a ton of people. Everybody's love your energy, love your enthusiasm. Vision's great. It's not going to work. I'm like, it is going to work. And then finally, I flew out to California to my best friend since we were 9 years old. And I told him the concept. And I said, listen, I'll split everything with you 50-50. I need your money. I'll do 100% of the work. And so he did. And then we built a small boutique hotel, rented out to traveling military people. And then from there, bought another 12 and then flipped some houses and bought another 9 and bought an office building. And it just grew. So in 36 months, I went from 6 figures in debt to a multi-million-dollar portfolio. And again, I'm sharing that not because I'm bragging, but because I want people that are listening to this show to know your circumstances should not impede you from proceeding on your goals and aspirations. You just need to put yourself in the right circles. Get yourself in and around the right people, right? As Jim Rohn says, you are the total sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? And if that circle isn't cheerleading for you and if they ain't rooting for you, then you need to find a new circle.
Yeah.
So anyway, I could go on and on and on. I won't, but I'll hand it back over to you. In summary, that's when the entrepreneurship started really in like full swing. So 2020 when I exited the military, and we've been doing it since then.
So 4 years then.
Yes.
Oh my God, that is incredible.
Thank you.
It blows my mind. And I love it because, again, one of the things that I always say and that I truly believe in, and I think it was Tony Robbins that said it first, but I also have a mindset coach that sees Tony as his mentor and is him in his masterminds and everything. And he even says it all the time. And I think because I heard it so much from him, it's been ingrained in me. And I feel it to the core of my being that life is always happening for you and not to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you took life happening and gave it a purpose. And you were so relentless in the pursuit of, no, this is my dream and I'm going to make it happen. And I get like goosebumps and it just fuels all my energy. I love it. I think that it's really easy to stay in the victimhood of your circumstances.
Say it
so
again,
easy.
sister.
Oh my God. I've been there, done that. I've been there, done that. And that's why I know it's so easy. That's where we stay in the land of average. And I'm rereading. This is like an older book by Jon Acuff, Start. And he talks about your pursuit of the land of awesome and how you basically took what usually takes somebody, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and shrunk that.
Yeah. No,
into
look,
40.
This is the analogy that I use with my wife all the time. I said, we're taking off on the runway. You need 160 miles an hour in order to get this aircraft off the ground. We're at 140 miles an hour. There's 300 feet of runway left. All the buzzards are going off saying pull up. That's in a reference to my age. I'm 52 this year. And I told my wife, I go, we have a minimum amount of time and we got to get this thing going. So all chips on black 7, right? It's
all in.
Playing. Yeah, let's do this shit. So it's funny because specifically with you shared a bunch of stuff with me too about a lot of your trials that you've been through. And it's a reoccurring theme for people that they're going to you have to stand back up and you have to keep going. At the end of the day, that's what it's easy to say, but it's not easy to do. And I think that people get complacent. I think that they're comfortable, right? I'm making $20 an hour. I'm making 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year. Okay. They have to ask themselves, what do they really want? Is it fulfilling? If you hate your effing job every single day and you wake up, is that good? I would rather make 80 grand and love what I'm doing than make 120 grand and hate my life every day.
Yes. Yes.
And so
absolutely, yes. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said this to you before we started. The thing that I say to people is, are you willing to take 2 steps backwards to go 3 steps forward?
Yeah.
Think about that, because many people, their immediate response is yes. And I'm like, I hear you, but I don't think that that's true. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if it's not tangible, if you can't touch it, breathe it, feel it, smell it, then instantly you're doubting yourself. All of the shit that's coming into your head, like, can I really find those type of deals? Can I get these people connected? Can I get these resources? Whatever your situation is. And that's where it goes back to being in and around the right people, right? You need people that are going to cheer. The bottom line is, I know it sounds super cliche because we all heard it when we were kids. You can be anything you want. You can be the president of the United States. It's true. Yeah. The question is, are you willing to put in the effort? And potentially, as I tell my kids all the time, are you willing to take on delayed gratification? Because everything that we're doing right now is not, we almost got divorced twice. Yeah. Because during my military time, and this was a revelation that I had, a quite an emotional one, to be honest with you, is I told her, I said, I was gone 90% of the time, but when I was home, I was 100% present. Now I'm home 100% of the time, but I'm only 10% present. Emotionally, mentally, I'm so engaged in the success and pursuit of what I'm doing that I'm sacrificing a ton of time. And so I've had to pull back and rebalance that, right? Because that's not healthy either. Yeah. It physically put me in the hospital because I was overworking myself and obviously stressing the relationship and the children and all that stuff. So I'm not saying to do that either. I'm saying there needs to be a medium. But most importantly, what I'm saying is you have to take action. That's what I tell you. If you take no action, then expect no different change in your outcome, your circumstances. It's just not going to happen.
I had been thinking and talking about making a podcast for 4 years. And it was like this, like you said, this imposter syndrome. Who am I? Who will even listen? All the things that go through your head. And my dad passed away October 2022. But in June of 2022, before that, he was declining, and I took a weekend retreat up in the Pacific Northwest, and I have a friend, she's a healer and a certified therapist, like all the things, right? She was staying off of the Columbia River. So we literally, it was just like meditations and it was nature and it was amazing. And in one of the sessions that I did with her, it came up that I was going to have a podcast and that it was going to be called Against All Odds. And thankfully she recorded them because I remember it vaguely because I was like in this meditative state. And I remember it vaguely, and I had to go back and listen to the recording, and I was like, that's it. So last year at a mindset conference with my mindset coach, it was his first live event. And he, like, at the beginning of the weekend, he was like, your goal this weekend is to take action on a goal that you've had that you've been afraid to take action on. And I was like, there's this podcast thing that's lingering in my mind. It's been on my heart because I feel like I have a story to tell, and I feel like others have stories that they've beaten these odds. And that weekend I signed up for a platform called Buzzsprout, and is what I use to upload my podcasts on. And that was like my big action on it. And then we had to put a deadline of like when this was going to actually happen. And I said, okay, by June 1st, I'll put my podcast out there. And it was, I want to say May 29th, May 30th that I actually launched it last year. So I did it in 2 weeks. I created the artwork for it. I created the intro, the outro, like everything. And I was like, okay, let me just record my first one. And I did. And I was like, oh my God, this is why did I wait so long? Because
Yes.
this feels so right. And that first season, it was solo episodes. It was interviewing friends that I know have gone through really difficult things because I didn't know any better, but I was still taking action on this dream.
Yeah.
And then I'm about to launch season 2, and this is what we're recording now. And it's so exhilarating because even my boyfriends that it's like less than, I don't know, it was like 4%, 3% of people that start a podcast get past episode 8 or some
10.
crazy number like
10.
that. 10. Okay. So so the odds. And so he was like, "What episode are you on now?" And I was like, "Season 1 had 36 episodes." And he was like, "Look at that. You've
Yeah.
already surpassed." And I'm like, "Yeah, that
No,
just
that's
feels so good."
amazing. Congratulations. You should be super proud, honestly.
Thank you.
And listening to you, I don't know if this specifically aligns with, the podcast, but I feel like it's relevant to this conversation. I'm sure that you've heard this before, but it's something that I'm shouting from the mountaintops consistently over the past month. And that is, people are like, how did you do it? What's the cheat code? The cheat code is consistency, period. Right? Taking action. That's the cheat code to success. First step, obviously, you got to do something.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot sit there. I said on another podcast of my own, I told somebody that I said, my wife used to walk in the room and I would be watching Biggest Loser. No bullshit. I'd literally have a half a gallon of Reese's peanut butter ice cream with some gummy bears on the side, maybe some Ruffles sour cream and chips and Mountain Dew, and probably a bucket of cotton candy. And she's, are you serious? What are you doing? And then you're sitting here crying. I'm like, I feel so good for these people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love the fact that you did it and then you were exhilarated, right? Is it scary? Yes, it is. But there's massive rewards on the other side. And let me just say one more thing, that when you were talking and I was listening, I also tell people I feel very blessed about the fact that because I served in the military, I lived in 20 other countries. And I think traveling that much and being injected into cultures like that gave me such an appreciation for both extremes of really nice crap and really, really bad crap. And saying, I come back here and just have a great appreciation for every opportunity, for a warm bed, for a hot meal, for all of these things. And so, what I'm saying to you and your listeners right now is, one thing that I'm loving about the podcast is I would not be sitting here talking to you today if I wasn't doing it. So now I just met you and we already shared some stories. I loved hearing your story. It was super cool. I feel like I could sit there and meet up with you and have teas and crumpet and we could kick it for another 2 hours. And
Oh my God, easily.
yeah. And so that would not have happened.
Yeah.
So if you didn't take that leap of faith, if I didn't take that leap of faith, back to the point of your podcast, Against All Odds, right? Whatever your circumstances is, to anybody listening to your show, if you have no money, if you don't have a place to stay, if you lost a relationship, if you lost your job, it's not the end. You just have to, yes, take a moment and pause, right?
Feel the things
Yes,
because you need to be
yes.
able to process.
But don't perpetuate it, right? That
Yes.
goes back into the victimhood mentality, right? Because like, even I used to jump out of airplanes and there's a couple times that I hit the ground super hard where like I questioned, did I break something? And I would sit there for a few seconds, first give thanks that I'm still alive. But then the
So
second
weird.
thing is, okay, let me catch my breath. All right, let's get up. Let's start moving. Or I could just sit there and lay there until somebody came to get me.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people do that in various circumstances in your life, especially when it gets super emotional. And I think that's where it's just super, super important. You got to have somebody that you can turn to, or a group of people that are going to hold you accountable, that are going to help lift you up and not bring you down. That doesn't mean that you can't be brutally honest with somebody.
Yeah.
I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yep.
You say to me, Dad, you're fucked up. I'm like, okay, I have a problem with that delivery.
Yeah,
But
with how you said that.
yeah, but if you came to me and you said, listen, Dad, I heard what you said. If you would allow me to, I'd like to express to you why I don't think that's okay. I'm probably going to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
And I may even concede at the end of that.
Yeah.
Um,
my gosh. We have a lot of similarities that it just blows my mind. I am super honest with my kids. I have 15, 18, and 20. And the moment that before they leave my car, I'm like, okay, don't do stupid shit.
yeah.
Don't do stupid shit. It's just in language that they will understand, that they will relate to. Just don't do stupid shit. If you have to think about the fact that, am I going to get in trouble with that right there? Right there. That's the start of doing the stupid shit. However, I'm very, very open with them, and I want them to be very open with me. How they tell me things is huge.
Yeah.
And as you said that, I'm like, yes, me too. I've gone through a lot with my kids. My oldest daughter was diagnosed bipolar at age 12, which was, I think, way too early to be diagnosed, in my opinion. But it was a really rough start to her teenage years. Really, really rough. And I was doing it on my own, and it was a lot. And it took a lot out of me to be able to then not be able to give that to the other two younger ones. And they went through it a lot. So I have always been very honest, and I always want them to be like, Mom, this is not working. Or my son had a problem with the teacher, the way that the teacher said something to him. And I think he said something that was just a little out of line. Like, it was definitely crossing the line of it should be also mutual respect. And so my son came home and he was so mad. He's 18 now, but he was so mad. And I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. You are going to write an email, and you're going to copy this amazing person called your mom on it. And you're going to say, Dear Mr. So-and-so, I just needed to reach out to you and let you know that the way that you spoke to me in class today and embarrassed me in front of the class, I did not appreciate. And just to highlight the situation, and to just respectfully say, I didn't like the way that you treated me, and I need you to know. And I said, that's two things that you're doing there. Number one, you're copying me. So there's an adult attached to it that can vouch for you. And number two, it's now in writing, and it's done respectfully. So if anything happens in the future, you have that proof.
Yeah.
So when you talk to me respectfully and let me know the situation of any problem, like, we can have a full-on conversation. But if you come into the car and we're like, Mom, I can't believe that this asshole.
Yeah.
Whoa. You don't talk about a teacher that way, because you don't know what they're going through. They're adults you need to respect. Like, I would have taken it completely different. Instead, he came to me as, Mom, like, I can't believe Mr. So-and-so did this. And I was like, what happened? And it's that same approach. You could and I can give you the tools. And now every time they have any issues, did you send an email? Did you send an email? Were you nice in the email? Did you copy me on it? Because I didn't see an email come through.
Yeah.
It's whatever. We prepare them for life. But yeah, it's the way they approach things.
Yeah.
And I completely agree.
Yeah, my daughter had a similar situation. I like the email thing. I didn't think of that. I had her go back in there and address it. But anyway, I'm 100% with you on the fact of, specifically, I'm referring to my 11-year-old daughter, and she's so emotionally intelligent. And yes, she's my child, so I'm biased, but I've
got you. I have one too.
I've studied it a lot. And I told my wife, I go, I'm telling you, she's at another level, man. Even when she was 7, I believe, and my sister passed, the way that she came into the room and she understood the atmosphere. She was, as we like to say in the military, she was situationally aware. And it was blowing my mind. Yeah.
Is she your youngest?
She is. My oldest is 30. I got
Whoa.
Yeah.
And how many do you have total?
5. So we have a blended marriage. I had 3. She had 1. We got married, and then we have the youngest together.
Got it. Okay.
We had a 6. Unfortunately, we lost him or whatever. So that was tough.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So sorry about that. And so I don't know if it's like this younger child thing, because my youngest is that way. And I'll go into a therapy session with her because I believe that everybody needs therapy. That's just my very personal opinion because it's done wonders for me. And it's made me understand not to be upset with the different parts of me that come out. Like anger is super important and it protects you. It knows your value and that's why you're angry. And so things like that. So I really, truly believe in therapy. And so we go to a therapy session. And I remember going to a therapy session with my oldest, which is 20 now, but still not emotionally the same level as my youngest, my 15-year-old. And I look at her and it's the same therapist. And I look at the therapist and I'm like, this is such a different type of session. This is such a much different type of session. Is it the youngest child that just has already gone through so much with the other two or the other kids that maybe they just know different? I don't know. But it blows my mind, the difference in like how she can read the room.
What's the age separation though? What's the age separation?
So my oldest is 20. She
Mhm.
just turned 20 and this one is 15 and a half. She'll be 16 and so 5 years-ish.
I'm listening to your story and then also thinking about my own. I had my first one when I was 20. I had our 12-year-old when I was 40.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, I was like, look, I'm more stable. She gets a different lifestyle. I have way more learned skills. I've traveled the world, but you guys got me at my full peak energy, like shucking and jiving, running, playing, throwing you around in the bouncy house. I still can to some extent, right? But not the same as I was when I was 20. When I was 20, I was still a kid myself, right?
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I definitely think you're a product of your environment as well. And so I would say that maybe part of the reason why your daughter's like that, aside from obviously we're also talking about male versus female and stuff. But anyway, a lot of these life lessons that you've gone through and all these things that you shared with me before that you've had to traverse yourself as parents, that's what we want, right? We want to say, hey, don't do that. Unfortunately, and I don't remember who said it, but I read it in a psychology book. This old German dude said, too soon old, too late smart, right? Because most of us are not going to learn from somebody else saying, hey, don't touch that because it's super hot. It's once they get burned, then they're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have touched that. And you're like, yeah, I know. I told you that 16
No
times.
shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I tell them all the time, you guys didn't come with a manual, and the way that I needed to parent you and like you are all different. My ex-boyfriend that was in their life for about 6 years, or directly in their life for about 6 years, he was there a little bit after as well, but he passed away in 2018 at 35 years old with a massive heart attack. It was just one of those freak things. He worked out. It was this condition that he didn't know he had and so forth. And stress didn't help. But having to tell each one of them, it was vastly different reaction. And and still to this day, my oldest, which was really the super close to him, she had no emotion. How am I supposed to understand that? No emotion. She was like, she kind of like closed in, bottled it all up, and no emotion. My son cried. However, his way of coping is remembering. Do you remember the time when Daddy Esteban? Do you remember the time when? And my little one, like, she was standing up when I told her, and she like crippled down to her feet. Like it was her and I had very similar reactions, but it was like devastating. And so, and we all have different ways of remembering him, and it's just so crazy. There's no manual that tells you this is how you should parent this person, and this is how this one goes. But I have become a more conscious parent. I've become more aware of maybe that reaction is not a good one. And I'm very good if, for example, no sleep that night or whatever, and you're just not in the same headspace as normal, and I'm too snippy, and more so that I can also teach them that it's okay that you don't have to be perfect, and that you can apologize for the things that you do sometimes, because we don't always go with that intention, right? So my intention wasn't to snap at you. My intention was to tell you this, and I'm sorry that I did snap. That wasn't my intention. I apologize. However, this is what I wanted to say. And it just, I've had situations that I had with my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, and it was such a difference of how I responded, and it was such a different response from them. So I love that we get to evolve, and that's what we get to show our kids, that there's no manual. And I say that all the time. There's no manual. You didn't come with a book that came to tell me how to parent you. So I'm doing the best that I can.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. I know you said that you had a period of time where you were a single mom too, and I did too. There was about three plus years that I was a single dad, and I was still active duty, which is insane.
Yeah.
Because every time that I would deploy, then I would have to try to rally. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's crazy.
Where do you live now?
North Carolina. We live in North Carolina.
Okay. So you're East Coast like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you still have a hotel?
Yep. We're still running it. In fact, we have a weekly meeting with our staff that helps run it. Yeah.
I used to be in the hotel industry, and I love hotels.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't meet you before you started this, or I would have tried to convince you to come work for us.
I was on the wholesale side of it. So I contracted hotels to sell the allotment to the wholesale travel market. And that was a different previous life, but I was damn good at what I did. Yeah. And made a lot of hotels damn good money too. My location was South Florida, and I still have amazing relationships from that.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty awesome career. And it was like I think it was like 23 to 30, 33, 34.
Yeah. Yeah. The vision for it came about because during the latter part of my military career, I not only traveled an immense amount, but a lot of times I would end up staying in hotels, and overseas, typically you can stay in the really nice hotels because the rates are not the same. Anyway, I was living in the Ritz-Carlton for 6 months. I had 3 butlers. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, I'm like, dang, why can't we provide upscale accommodations like this for military people? Because a lot of times the military, they may have to use the lodging, the hotels on base, and they're subpar. I'm not going to name the installation, but there's one that it's so raggedy. And so I can't even believe that they're still operating this thing. And yeah, they can stay outside too, but you got stuff like the La Quinta, or you got the Super 8 or what.
Which is not fun.
No. And also the confinement of the space, right? So it's 200 square feet, 225 square feet with a chair in a corner. Like I had to have my son come stay with me one time, and I literally had to blow up the air mattress on the floor and then put it down every morning just to walk around the room. It was insane. So my concept was, I'm going to buy small apartments. I'm going to make them upscale, Italian porcelain tiles, soft closed drawers, Italian leather, Bose sound bars. Like we pimp these things out to the 9. And I said, but I'm going to charge them less than what the government requires them to spend so that they can have a sweet place to stay in. And so that was the whole concept. And so
I love that.
Yeah, because as a traveling military guy, when you're away from home, it sucks already as it is. But then when you have less than ideal living circumstances, so
it really sucks.
Yeah, it just helps out, man. It just helps processing it, and also makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And in some circumstances where somebody might be in a school for a month or 6 weeks, if their family's not terribly far, they could be like, hey, why don't you come visit me for a week? And there's enough room that they can spread out. Again, it's not a 225 square foot hotel. So yes, we still have it. That's what we're running. And then like I mentioned to you before, similar to you, I've recently just started some coaching and speaking.
I love it. So give us a little bit about that. I want to hear about the podcast, because obviously that's like now my newest passion project. So I love it. So give us some context about that.
Yeah, my epiphany was January of this past year, because I had built so many businesses and was running them in parallel, as I already alluded to earlier. I was running myself ragged. My learning lesson from that, for anybody listening, is that I don't care how smart you are or what your work ethic is. The bottom line is you have to have other people to help you row those boats, because it's not sustainable. I had launched 6 companies virtually within a 6 to 12 month period of time. It was silly. Anyway, so my wife was like, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? And I told her, I genuinely get excited about helping somebody else put their vision into fruition because that's what I'm good at. I'm a visionary. I can see the steps that other people can't. And the analogy I like to use a lot of times is a hoarder's house. Like somebody goes in there and they don't know where to start. I'm like, I'll help you clear the pathway and show you where things can go. And then you can keep going from there. So that's it. And I had a bunch of people that reached out to me that were like, hey, man, I see you've had some success and stuff. Like, I want to open this coffee shop, or I want to start this pressure washing business, or I want to become a real estate agent, whatever the thing is that they want to become. So, yeah, I just had people reach out to me that were like, can you help me get started? And I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning. It became very clear to me. I was like, I want to help other people figure out what their pathway looks like. Because back to one of our earlier comments that we discussed, is like, why are more people not doing this? And I think the harsh reality, it may sound insensitive, but the vast majority of people are never going to pursue it. And if they do pursue it, they're going to hit 1 or 2 obstacles and they're going to turn around because it's too stressful. But there are people out there that I think do, but maybe they don't have the right circle, right? Or they just need that little edge up, right? 1 rung, 2 rungs on the ladder. So that's what Vision in Motion is, the company that I started. It's about helping people turn their dreams into reality. And so because of that, then I started the podcast Motion Matters. And I did it very similar to you. I wanted to talk to other people and hear their stories. And I wanted to share those stories with other people in hopes that might help somebody say, dang, if that dude was 6 figures in debt and built a multi-million-dollar portfolio, why can't I? Or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's what Motion Matters is about. And honestly, one of the things that I didn't realize, but I just said it to you already, is I've only recorded 10 episodes, but of my 10 episodes, I've gotten to talk to 10 people that I would not have talked to.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
It's the coolest thing. I seriously feel like I've been saying this all week long. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like we were meant. I wholeheartedly believe in people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I've had so many, like, just in this last week that I'm like, oh my God, you are supposed to be in my life. This is so cool. And it's this energy that I really truly believe that, like you said, the people that you're most around, the people that you surround yourself with is so important. Because if you are the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And
Amen to that. Yes.
I have these incredible mentors that I'm just like, oh goodness, this is amazing. And yes, do I have my team that I mentor, that I help? Absolutely. But I then surround myself up with people that are even higher up. And it is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, oh my God, I could totally just listen to you all day long. This is amazing.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Amazing. So what limiting beliefs or like roadblocks did you have to overcome in order to get to where you are today?
I think I touched on it earlier. I've definitely never been, I'm not risk adverse. In my military terminology, sticking with that, I tell people I jump out of the airplane without the chute and then I figure out how I'm going to land. I'm not saying that's necessarily the most intelligent way to go about it. What I'm saying is when I'm passionate about something, I'm going to go. I think the limiting belief I touched on earlier was, again, and honestly, I don't think I realized this till recently. I think subconsciously, I always maybe didn't go after the massive things because I grew up poor or because I didn't go to college and I wasn't intelligent. And it took the season of my life to do things that really caused me this moment of reflection where I said, wait, I learned how to speak Chinese fluently. There was 20 people in that class, and when we ended, there was 9 of us. Maybe I'm not stupid. Wait, I went from negative 6 figures in debt and built a multi-million-dollar. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I do have business sense and strategy. So I'm saying collectively, I think the limiting belief was potentially that maybe my upbringing or my circumstances didn't shape me to potentially do great things.
Yeah.
But knowing that I was capable of great things. It's really weird to explain.
I get it completely. I
Yeah.
definitely understand that. Because if I would have let everything that I went through in my life, like keep hold of me,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't have lost 40 pounds. I wouldn't have, I may not have been alive right now. So it's this, tenacity and persistence saved my life. The consistency that saved my life. My dad used to say when I was little that I was like the little tick on top of the tick that continuously bothers the tick that's already bothering the dog. You are persistent in your pursuit. And I'm like, okay. But I
Yeah.
didn't know what that meant in that moment. And that has literally been like what I do. Give me a dream. It doesn't matter how long it's taking me to be successful. I'm still here. I'm still consistent. I still love the fact that I wake up and I get to help people get healthy.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. The one word that I love in English is perseverance. And that's why I tell people, and I'll keep this brief because I know you got to close up, but you can't see me. I'm 6'2". When I joined the service, I was 145 pounds. That's ridiculous. You can see my rib cage. And everybody's, there's no way in hell, dude, that you're ever going to work in special forces. It's just not going to happen. But I tell people, I'm like, look, the reason why I made it is because I don't quit.
Yeah.
That's it. There was dudes that could bench 400 pounds. There's dudes that can run 2 miles in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. They didn't make it. Why? It's a mental thing. And what I'm saying is perseverance, to have your eyes set on the prize and be relentless in your pursuit. And I would say on the way, you have to be adaptable.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
never gonna go the way that you think it's gonna
You
go.
have to be focused on the goal, but fluid in the approach that you have to end up taking because it might have to change often.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh my gosh, this was so amazing. I think we'll do a part 2 on your
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes. Yes.
But this definitely has to happen because I seriously feel like we can riff back and forth all day and it would be just such a great conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you again. I really, really greatly appreciate it. Can't wait to have you on my show. I want people to hear again, if Maria went from that to where she is, like, how bad is my stuff really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the definite it's so funny how we are very similar in our purpose
Yep.
of the podcast. So I
Yes.
love that. So I will put all of your information in the show notes. Listeners, I hope you got so much out of today because I know that I did just having this conversation, but I'll put any way that you can connect with him on the show notes. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Jamie. And thank you for listening today. Peace out, guys. Love your life.